Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today we've got a video where we're going to answer a pretty common question we get, believe it or not, about the Discone Cage Antenna at the bow. A number of viewers, supporters, museum guests are familiar with the Iowa-class battleships in their World War II configurations, whether it's footage, blueprints, video games, whatnot. They recognize the ships in the World War II configuration much more so than the modern day configuration that they're in today. We interpret the ship as if it is around the year 1990, which was when the ship did her last operational deployment, and so she has a ton of very contemporary equipment on board. Among them is that Discone Cage Antenna, which you do not see on Iowa-class battleships in World War II or the Korean War. So the bulk of historic black and white footage. So the Discone Cage Antenna is a high-frequency radio transmitter. How do we know it's a transmitter? Transmitters always have a red ring painted around their base to show that they radiate, whereas receivers have a blue ring painted around the base. That was added to New Jersey in the 1960s during the Vietnam War, and putting a Discone Cage antenna like that on gunships at the bow in a mounting like that is very common in that time period. A number of the older heavy cruisers on the gun line in Vietnam got this modification before Battleship New Jersey was reactivated. And with no other battleships in the world at that point, the U.S. Navy did a number of the modifications to the ship similar to what they were doing with the World War II cruisers. Hell, her captain, J. Edward Snyder, was a expert cruiser commander who had seen cruiser service during World War II, who was being sent to take command of a new heavy cruiser on the gun line when he was given command of Battleship New Jersey. There were no battleship experts, so they took a cruiser guy. And so a lot of the modifications you see added to the ship at that time are the sort being done to cruisers. Discone Cage antennas are great. They are actually two transmitters in one. The problem is if they are close to a superstructure, that blocks a part of the Discone Cage. It just doesn't work as effectively. So you've got to put it somewhere where it's free on all sides, which means either up in the superstructure, but we've got other radars up there cluttering it, or on the bow of the ship, or the fantail, I suppose, but that's where the helicopters land. The issue with the bow of the ship is the anchor chains. So you've got to build the structure up over the chains to get it out of the way. But that gives you a convenient place to hang your bell. Each of the Iowa-class battleships hang their bell on a different part of the Discone Cage antenna. Do not ask me why. Anyway, she got this during Vietnam. High-frequency radio transmission was the main thing. In the 1980s, when they're reactivating all of the Iowas, with the exception of New Jersey, they were being reactivated for the first time since the 1950s. They added the Discone Cage antenna to all of them. However, they also received satellite communication systems with 16 transceivers and 2 satellite dishes, and that was the main transmission method at that time. However, they did still have redundant high-frequency radio transmitters like the Discone Cage and a number of other antennas on the ship. Remember, when you visit, just check for the ones with red bases, and those are the transmitters. So all of the Iowas got this. This is historically accurate to New Jersey from 1968 on, and to the other Iowas from the 1980s on. So it should be there. Another good thing pointing it at the bow is you don't typically fire over the nose dead ahead. You typically fire off the broadside. So putting it all the way forward there is protecting it from the overpressure of the guns, the shock from the guns, damaging that antenna. In the 1980s, the battleships are primarily being used for shore bombardment. You don't have to maneuver. You just lay off the coast of an enemy city, like aggressive Philadelphia out there, and you turn all your guns on that broadside and you fire. You're very rarely firing at angles that aren't approximately 180 degrees off one side or the other. They do test fire that a lot in the 80s, and they do it some for publicity shoots. But in actual wartime situations, it's almost always broadside. I know I've got some ham radio operators that listen to us, and I know some of the Iowas do transmit from their Discone Cage antennas. We do not here on Battleship, New Jersey. However, we do have a radio club that transmits on board. Are you a ham radio operator? Have you ever transmitted on a ship? Have you ever tuned in for Museum Ship Radio Day? Let us know in the comment section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, but we also receive a lot of support from other institutions and private donors like yourselves. And the private support that we have received has allowed us to go from making one video a week to making multiple videos a week. So we really appreciate that. If you'd like to continue to support the museum and our channel, there's a link in the description below. Also remember to like, share, and subscribe so that you're notified when we post the new videos. Thanks for watching.